The figures for 2019, we had already consumed 1,050,000.
My name is Anthony Mugambi. I'm the country team leader for Kilimo Trust Kenya, and at the same time the project team leader for the R4I CSA project funded by the iCare Foundation. We're here today, first of all, we've convened the RISE sector stakeholders, the key stakeholders from farmers, input suppliers, particularly the fertilizer companies that are very key for the nutrition part of the soils. Basically the policy makers, the government officials. We have with us here the RISE promotion program at the Ministry of Agriculture. We have the county government represented here, and we're very happy to discuss with them, particularly on the issues of the use of the rice byproducts which have been going to waste all this time, and particularly we are focusing on rice husks.
Ingekuwa vizuri zaidi isipokuwa moja kulingana na climate change na ile cropping program ambayo tuko naye, kuna shida kidogo, ijapokuwa tunaweza jua vile tutafanya hiyo mpango, kwa sababu kawaida sisi tunakuwa na program ya cropping yenye inapangwa na National Irrigation Authority. Kwa kawaida mpunga tunapanda mwezi wa 8, tunatoa December. Tunakuwa na ratoon ambayo tunatoa February. Hiyo ni msimu wa mvua. Na these alternative crops sana sana zinafanya vizuri wakati wa jua. Wakati wa jua tunakuwa na mpunga kwa shamba. Iko na shida kidogo, ni lazima tutumie mvua. Na wakati wa mvua mashamba yetu yanakuwa rocked, sometimes haifanyi mzuri, ijapokuwa kwa ile mashamba ambayo iko juu kidogo inasafanya hiyo mambo ya resilience. Lakini kwa mashamba ambayo iko chini kidogo inakuwa na shida kidogo juu ya maji, kwa sababu wakati tuko na kiangazi tunafanya irrigation.
The Ministry of Agriculture. Okay, my name is Dr. Mary Mupende. I work in the Ministry of Agriculture, Livestock, Fisheries and Cooperatives, the State Department of Crop Development. I'm currently heading the coordination in rice production in the rice promotion program. Thank you. I must start by saying that the consumption of rice is increasing at a very high rate because of increase in population, urbanization, and also changing eating habits, especially among our youth who form the majority of the population. And so due to that, the gap is big. We are importing more than 75% of what we consume. We have the figures for 2019 show a consumption of 1,050,000 metric tons against the production of less than 200,000 metric tons. And this one has continued to grow. But through ministry initiatives, we have the National Rice Development Strategy in the second phase, which starts in 2019. We are moving all the way to 2030. And in that strategy, we want to see how we can reduce
on rice husks and rice straws, which mostly have been going to waste. But then secondly, the project which has the 4 R's, like I said, the first 3 R's, which is reduce, reuse, recycle, rice initiative. We are very keen on ensuring that we have reduced on the issues of climate change, basically lowering or reducing on the key contributing factors, which are the greenhouse gases, the carbon dioxide, methane, and for instance, rice farming is one of the sectors that contribute so much to greenhouses into the ozone layer, particularly methane and of course carbon dioxide. So how are we able to do this? For instance, we would want to ensure that we reduce on the use of external fertilizers, particularly the N or nitrogen-based fertilizers, and we want to do this using the same rice byproducts. For instance, composting of rice straws, use of the rice husks biochar, which is basically gotten from burning the rice husks, and of course activating it to ensure that we put it back into the soil. Basically,
nimealikwa hapa kwa kikao kuhusu kilimo ya mchele, vile tunaweza tumia zile bidhaa ambazo tunatoa kwa mchele. Kwa upande wa mchele, mchele haina shida. The problem which we have ni the byproducts. Sisi tunatoa kwa mchele, yani tunazitupa, hazitutumii inavyopasa. Ndio sababu tunakuja hapa ili tugundue vile tunaweza tumia the byproduct is straws na rice husks.
Coming back to rice husks again, other than production of biochar, we want to see how we can, for instance, while producing biochar, we want to see how we can use it as fuel, both at household level by the farming households. How can they use the rice husks for fuel, basically for boiling, cooking, and stuff like that. And we are designing stoves that not only would they be used for cooking or boiling water or any other use as fuel, but we also want to harness the byproduct of that process again, which is biochar, which is used to amend the soils, which have major benefits for the soils, because other than biochar being a soil amendment component, biochar is one of the biggest proven what we call carbon sinks. It can stay in the soil for thousands of years, retaining that carbon dioxide. So basically, we want to see how, for instance, that you've seen here some of the stakeholders that we have in this forum. One of them is a girls' school in Ahero Girls High School. We want to see how we can actually build for them an industrial burning unit for burning rice husks from the neighboring rice milling plants, which they have no use for, and that will reduce on, again going back to the reducing and the reusing of the rice husk, so that we are able to reduce on the cutting of trees to provide the firewood for the schools, for cooking for the kids, boiling their water and stuff like that. So we want to see how can we pilot or do a prototype of a burning industrial burning equipment that can be able to burn the husks, and ensure that this school is able to supply biochar from the burnt rice husks, where they have also used the rice husk as fuel. So basically that's why we are here today, to exchange knowledge with the experts, policy makers, because at the end of the day also we also want to influence issues to do with
kilimo ya mpunga zaidi ya miaka 10, na tukizingatia kwamba kilimo siku hizi ni kama biashara, inaonekana tunaenda hasara, kwa sababu tukitegemea mchele peke yake hatuna faida yoyote ambayo tunapata juu ya ile matumizi ambayo tunatumia kwa kulima mchele. Ndio tulikuwa naonelea kama tungepata na mambo ambayo tunaweza tukua tukitumia the products ambayo tunatupa kama straws ama rice husks, inaweza kuwa na faida ambayo kidogo, kwa sababu tunategemea mchele tu peke yake, hii nyingine inapotelea mbali. Kwa hivyo kama nikitoka hapa, kama ningekuwa na access ya kwa nikitumia hii straws, siwa zilinifaidi na ile rice husk, angalau kwa mfuko nitakuwa nimebaki na kitu, na kulima mchele itakuwa kunifaidi.
We encourage them to do at least the first ratoon, which is very economical. So from there they can now clear the farms and do the legumes, because apparently from the cost benefit analysis, the subsequent ratoons, other than the first ratoon, you cannot compare the income from that when you compare it with a legume that you would put there, and you don't need to water it. It will just continue using the residual moisture that was left by the rice.
Most farmers are doing.
First of all, you may realize that first of all, after they flood, they also drain the fields. So what is left there is basically very minimal water because most of the water is drained away. So we've done this test already, and you will see later on inside there samples of fields that have been harvested with very good green grams. And we are focusing on legumes that have ready markets, like green grams, either ready markets within the localities, within the local areas, or ready markets outside, but one can easily sell these legumes or consume at home. So basically that has been our focus. And our trials in West Kano have been amazing, particularly for green grams. You see them there. Yeah, like I said, this is a pilot project. We are hoping to test those prototypes, test these concepts like the rice legume integration, the prototypes for the use of rice husks, rice straws. So basically, so far we have done a prototype, for instance, for rice husk stoves to be used by the farming households, and also those, for instance, mostly the ladies that do chips along the road or fry fish along the road. And we have tested these stoves with them and the fabricator, and the results have been amazing. So they're in the final stages of fabrication to ensure now that the drawing of the voucher as a byproduct of the burning can be drawn out easily, and that is we're almost finalizing that. And the feedback from the ladies who have done the testing has been amazing. That's one. Secondly, we have actually seen a company from our initiative in the lakes of it. They are calling themselves the Lake Basin Agrotech, a company that has actually just been registered to ensure that they take advantage of the voucher that will be produced within these households, so that they become off-takers of voucher, okay? To be able to produce, to activate that voucher and make what we call voucher fertilizers. We're also testing what we call vermiculture, so that the voucher is actually inoculated with microbes, which makes it more active in the soils and stuff like that. So basically, there are issues with. We're also doing. We've also done trials of vermicomposting using rice straws. Vermicomposting is using worms to accelerate the process of the decomposition. So instead of the rice straws taking longer, which actually has been discouraging the farmers from composting the same, these worms are able to accelerate that process of composting, and then those straws can be taken quickly back to the farms. Again, on rice legume integration, for instance, in West Kano and Moya, we have seen tremendous uptake of legumes after they harvest their rice. Already we have harvested the first season of green grams in West Kano within this short period. Of external fertilizers or external inputs, particularly N-based fertilizers, we are promoting another concept as well, because while utilizing the rice byproducts, we also want to boost rice production sustainably. So basically what we are promoting are what we call sustainable rice production practices, basically focusing on two aspects: the soil nutrients, efficient use of it, or reduction in the use of those, in the efficiency of the use of the nutrients, and also efficiency in terms of water usage. How do we do this? For instance, instead of flooding the rice fields constantly, we want to train the farmers to be able to do what we call intermittent watering, so that they flood their fields, and after some time they draw out the water, so that first of all it reduces on excessive use of unnecessary use of water in the rice fields. That's one. But also secondly, you may realize when you go to the rice farms, then mostly you have rice fields that have been harvested already. What happens, you realize that there is a lot of what we call residual moisture or water that is left in the farms, and most of the time it's left there to dry. So how can we reuse that water? So what we do is that we are encouraging farmers to put back a leguminous crop immediately after harvesting, so that we utilize or we reuse the residual moisture, the water that is left in the farms after rice has been harvested, to put back a leguminous crop like green grams, cowpeas, chickpeas, pigeon peas. so that they are able, because they are short maturing, they are early maturing varieties or crops, they are able to harvest quickly before the next planting season. That process itself has three key aspects that will be answering for the rice production. One, these leguminous crops, they fix nitrogen, natural nitrogen, and it has been proven that legumes fix up to 20% of the requirement for the nitrogen fertilizer. So it means the bill for the farmers and for the producers, they're able to reduce on the cost of fertilizers by 20%. That's one. Secondly, so that one first of all answers to the question of incomes. So it will reduce on the cost of producing rice by 20%. At the same time, the farmers will have diversified their incomes. They have income from rice, income from the legumes. Okay. It will also answer the question of nutrition at the household level. Okay, because now there's a protein-based commodity, and also it complements rice, which is a carbohydrate. Thirdly, we are also seeing other than incomes, nutrition, and the soil amendment through through nitrogen. There are also other benefits from the soil, because it makes even the soil not getting compacted. We say the soils become friable. So basically that's one concept of what we are calling that concept, rice legume integration. And it is really something that we want to push ahead to ensure that the rice value chain or rice production becomes more sustainable. We boost incomes for both the rice producers and other actors within the value chain. This particular project, which is funded again by the iCare Foundation of the Netherlands, is in two countries, that is Kenya and Uganda. And here in Kenya particularly, because that's where we are right now. Here in Kenya, we are focusing on western side of Kenya, Busia, Bunyala, Ahero in Kisumu, and now central Kenya, particularly Moya. That's where our major focus is. And we would want to really contribute to increase rice production for the Kenyan market, because, as you know, the import bill for rice importation from the Asian countries is so huge. For instance, last year, Kenya spent not less than 15 billion on rice alone. So if we are able to save the government or the economy that the foreign exchange, those dollars that go out there, to be very good. So if we can do that by at least 10% increase in production, and also ensure that while at it, the farmers are doing it cost effectively, while at the same time caring for the environment, okay, because of these issues of climate change and stuff like that. So yeah, we've done a baseline study. Mostly, when you look at when you go to the most rice milling plants across East Africa, not just Kenya, you find heaps and heaps of rice husks, sometimes which the millers consider as a nuisance. So mostly, you realize that sometimes even they pay people to just carry this to go and use as maybe bedding for the livestock, for instance, in the zero grazing units, or other, for instance, rabbits rearing and stuff like that. So it's basically less than 10% of rice husks that are being recycled. Similarly, for instance, you go to Uganda, and even here in Kenya, rice straws, other than in Moya where they're doing a bit of baling of the hay for use as animal feeds. Rice husks, the use is so low. There are even some areas where they burn rice straws, other than being an issue in the environment because of the burning of that. It also ensures that the nutrients that had been mined from the soil goes to waste. So even in Moya where they're doing hay for animal feeds, actually that is not even used within the rice growing areas. So there is also mining of soil nutrients from those areas, because that straw is not used within that area. So it goes elsewhere to as far as northern Kenya. So basically there is that mining of soil nutrients from those areas. So we want them to recycle within that area, and that's our focus.